Hello, happy new vlog, and welcome. You're here just in time to bid goodbye to winter, which has been retreating all morning. Things are starting to look, green's a strong word, but pale green certainly, and less white, which is a bit of a relief because, as I mentioned in the last vlog, you reach a point with snow where you're just done with it. There's still a bit out here, but I dare say there won't be any by the end of tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of Toby's Stupid Vlog.
Last night at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, it started snowing again quite heavily, and so everything that had been exposed in the morning got covered up again, and when we went to bed it was a proper white snow scene, which is why it's even more remarkable what it looks like today. It's about 3 o'clock, and I mean, yes, the water's frozen, but the pavements are dry and the snow is gone, like it was never here. That's quite remarkable. I bet the towpath's not quite so clear. Everything else, back to normal. Remember the Arctic blizzard and the snow scene that was here yesterday? That's just remarkable. I've never seen snow disappear so quick. And I did tell you about how this is a bit of a, little heat trapping queue, but you didn't really imagine that this was going to happen so quickly. The Met Office is saying, like, oh, be careful when you go out, it's not wintry weather. I'm like, yeah, okay, not in queue is. So the tide is coming in so fast that they're basically doing stationary practices. So they paddle forwards, but they don't really go forwards. I've never seen the tide coming in so hard before. It's like really, really gushing, and which means it's nowhere near high tide, which is quite concerning because you can see it's already quite high. So I will not be coming back via the towpath, and I think it's probably got a couple more hours of, or at least a good hour, which means it's going to breach a lot of these banks, which will be interesting to see. But I don't want to be here to see it. Just looking at that, you could be forgiven for thinking that the river actually flows from right to left. It doesn't, it flows from left to right. So this is how quick the tide's coming in. It's astonishing. So the snow has gone, as you can see, even here, which is quite surprising because it was only supposed to be 4 degrees. That seems to be enough. The snowdrops are still around. Crocuses have taken a battering, and I don't really know what's going to happen to the daffodils because they were half out when the snow landed. Time will tell. We'll be in spring in less than 3 weeks, so that'll give us a clear indication of whether the flowers have made it. But yeah, suffice to say, I was expecting it all to hang around until tomorrow when it got up to 8 degrees, and that killed it off. But obviously, as quickly as it arrived on Tuesday, the snow has now departed, bar a couple of little patches here where it's sheltered. I have to say I was expecting to be whinging about it for days. Oh, why is it still here? All the paths are so slippery. But none of that, so great, brilliant, love it. I've cleaned my lens now, didn't take my own advice. Anyway, the dawn chorus this morning was really impressive, and I couldn't work out why whilst lying in bed, but it's occurred to me since that it's because all the birds could see that the snow was disappearing, and they were very excited, and I don't blame them because they probably haven't had much to eat in the last few days. This must seem like some sort of miracle, frankly. Good afternoon. As part of today's walk, we've come into the village to see the market. We managed to get a pancake and some macarons. So now we're going to go for a little stroll towards Richmond. Made it down to Richmond Bridge through various rainstorms. Check out all the seagulls chilling on the boats. And we're just crossing over into whatever you want to call this other bit on the other side of the river, East Twickenham or St Margaret's or whatever. Good morning, happy Monday. I'm back on the towpath to do my steps for the day. as part of Toby's 10,000 steps for Cancer Research UK, which I will try not to go on about too much, but I would appreciate a couple of pounds or a couple of shares. So it's quite a pleasant morning actually. Temperature's picking up today and sort of spring is resuming, although as I mentioned the 20th of March is actually the first day of spring. And it's nice to have the towpath back to the level of calm I'm used to. Last time I was on this a couple of weeks ago, literally every man and his dog and his bike was on here. And yeah, on Saturday I think I mentioned how high the tide was. It turns out it was the spring tide, which is the highest tide pretty much of this time of year, so it's now returned to normality, thankfully. And if you know a Kirk Young in the Barnes area, local graffiti suggests that he's not very popular, so you might want to mention that to him. Seems to be currently the subject of all the graffiti of the last mile and a half. So I'm going to walk to Hammersmith along this side of the river, all the way to Hammersmith Bridge, which is closed to traffic at the moment but still open to pedestrians, and then get on the Piccadilly line and go to USP, Tavistock Square. So you see everything in Barnes really, from like, you know, the Thames and the beautiful park all the way through to stormtroopers on balconies. There's a cow up there as well. Very odd. It's good, doing me good this walk. I can already feel myself coming back to life a bit after the winter apocalypse last week, which makes you, it's actually a bit depressing after a while, the darkness and the sort of bleakness, but this is good. The sun's trying to come out and you can smell your surroundings again, flowers, the wood, the river, even the road, but it does feel like the senses wake up a bit. So we've actually lost 2 trees in the wind last week, 2 giant trees, which is a real shame. See how enormous they are. There's a further one that's fallen up there. It's a shame because these are kind of, well, this is what this bit of the Thames is sort of signified by, these enormous great trees. But you know, nothing lives forever, and the other one was very rotten on the inside as it turns out. This one, not so much, it would seem, but you know, eventually the wind gets them, it does thin them out a bit from the weak ones, so there we go. Well, that didn't take as long as I remember. I'm already at Hammersmith. I should have walked a bit further. Oh well, it was good either way. It was very enjoyable and hopefully put me in the right state of mind for today's prepping and planning and tomorrow's F1 technical test, because that otherwise could be highly stressful. Good morning. Hello from the other side of the bank. The other bank, I should say, the other side of the river. Did another little stroll today. A little earlier because I have to be in a little earlier. Today is technical testing for the F1 kit. Nothing really in this world is as stressful, so a walk is very much needed beforehand. Yesterday I did an enormous amount of walking because then I had to go around to Maplin to buy some bits. Maplin, as you might know, has gone into administration, so that's fun. It's one of many brands that you'll see disappearing from the high street over the next 18 months, 2 years, as Brexit slowly breaks those that were on the edge. It's quite sad really, but the exchange rate has been so poor for the last 18 months that those people who rely on European goods, even with no tariff as they currently are at the current exchange rate, are somewhat screwed. So good work everyone. It's not like anyone needs a Toys R Us or a Maplin anyway. So yes, there's space on the high street going if you're interested. Anyway, for the time being, I'm going to continue my walk on the north bank. This is a little bit more tricky because I have to go around Barnes Railway Bridge. There is a lot less people at this time in the morning. By this time in the morning, I should probably clarify, I set off at 7:15, and there was no people who on the towpath between Chiswick Bridge and Barnes Railway Bridge, except for 3 guys who were at the rowing club waiting to go rowing, because rowers are mental, and very few cars on the bit of road I just had to go around. And I mean, there's the occasional jogger here, but this is about as quiet as you'll ever see it. So today is day 6 of Toby's 10,000, and so far it's going very well. Yesterday I did about 14,000, and so about 20% of the way there. I was worried about how I was going to do this when I had work, and the answer is just walk to work. And if you have to, do a top up in the evening, but I haven't had to so far. My average at the moment is about 12,000 a day, so this is going reasonably well. Obviously, if I pull something or injure myself, this is going to become much more challenging, which is why I set the caveat of an average. But that said, my intention is still not to have to worry about that and just do 10,000 every day, which is 7.5 kilometers roughly a day. So the only thing is, if you do a little walk like this in the morning, it does make you damn hungry for breakfast. So I have to think of what delicious goodies await me at Russell Square. It's also 12 degrees warmer than when I started this 6 days ago. It does beg the question, is will there be a 20 degree temperature differential between the beginning and the end of this? -2, -3 in blizzards at the beginning. With wind chill it was about -10, I think I mentioned that at the time, more than once. By the end, who knows? I mean, it's end of March, it could reasonably be 17, 18 degrees and sunny. It could feel like 23, 24. Apart from the fact it's starting to rain, that was again pretty easy and very pleasant. I'm just going to do this last 400 metres, and then I'm going to sit on a train in silence because I forgot my headphones again, which is a little annoying. I have to interact with humanity, and then we'll get to the task at hand. Another day, another walk, and back into queue because the sun is threatening to come out. So I've got to keep finding new places to walk, basically, even within the gardens, because I'm going to have to do so much walking over the next few weeks that I'll drive myself crazy if I don't. Hello, goose. Some of the crocuses have recovered quite well, actually. If you look over here, I'll take some more crocus pics. I don't think I've posted anything today. I almost forgot to post something yesterday. It was 5 minutes to midnight and I was like, oh crap. So I raided my camera roll and managed to find a nice picture of the gardens. Anyway, yes, look, crocuses, excellent. So I'm continuing my walk into town. Just had some Korean lunch, which is very nice actually. These two and that one restaurant are all owned by the same people. They're excellent, all of them, no matter if you want Chinese, Japanese or Korean, all very good. Anyway, that wasn't meant as an advertisement. The reason I'm going into town is to pick up a watch that I was having repaired. I say I was having repaired, they haven't been able to repair it, so I'm picking it up unrepaired. It might have to go to Germany next. And the other watch, which I dropped off in central London to be repaired, they've said the repair bill is £1,200. Let that sink in for a moment. Haven't been up here in a while. It's top of Richmond Hill, looking down towards Ham and the peach field there, obviously. It's very nice. On a day like today, the visibility is quite good and the sun keeps poking out. It's very pleasant indeed. It just started hailing. Of course it did. Just now I was thinking, oh, it's a bit more spring-like today. And then hailstones. Amazing. So it's pretty cold up there. So I'm just going to do a little loop back through Richmond Park. Just come past the Store and Garter, which is now some of the most expensive homes in Richmond. It's a bit of a shame. Anyway, let's see if spring is still happening. God, it's crunchy underfoot, there's so many hailstones. Let's see if spring is still happening in the park. So maybe not 4 seasons in one day, but certainly 3. What a very strange set of weathers, but I guess that is England at this time of year, so glad I still came out though, even with the hailstones and what have you, and the unrepaired watch. Anyway, I do actually need to do some work this afternoon, so I've got to head back and start organising a few bits, much though it pains me to do so. Here we are, coming back through Sheen Common. It occurs to me that I haven't actually been here since I did my walks to board meetings, and the last autumn it must have been. And I haven't been able to do it, obviously, this board cycle because, well, sunset's been too early. But my last board meeting of this cycle is in 2 weeks' time. The sunset will be just about late enough to make this work, as long as it doesn't snow or something. So I might get to do a little stroll through here and Ham and what have you. Set my brain up for a meeting, it's always helpful. Plus, you know, every step counts this month, so I've got to find every opportunity to go for a walk, like I don't anyway, but it's got to be a sizable walk. So not the most direct route back to come through the cemetery, but as I was going up the road over there, through the fence I could see that someone had left a tap on full gush, and that kind of thing pisses me off, because water is a resource that we have a very limited amount of, and we never think of it as a limited amount, but I assure you it is. The next set of major wars will most likely be fought over water, and you can't just piss it away. I mean, you can literally, but I mean you can't just leave taps running. That's just absurd. So we're going to try and turn this one off, and then at least I'll feel better about myself, if nothing else. And then finish a little walk and do some work. Good morning. Absolutely stunning morning it is today. Now also, happy International Women's Day. And I say that to you regardless of how you identify your gender. And the reason you should be proud and happy that it's International Women's Day, if you're not a woman, just in case this isn't glaringly obvious to you, is that half the population of the world is. And so it's probably in everybody's interests to treat everyone fairly, pay everyone equally, and that's why we should all celebrate International Women's Day. Plus, good luck explaining to your mum if you don't. So I'm wearing some purple today, the suffragettian colour, and in fact it is the colour of the year apparently. Is Pantone Ultraviolet, so there we go. I'm going to set myself up for this day with a 3 bridges walk. I've done 1 bridge so far. This is the longest way you can go in Hammersmith, so I'm cutting it a little fine if I'm honest. So Chiswick Bridge, Barnes Bridge, and then Hammersmith Bridge. But it's a lovely day for it. And quick walking update. I've completed 7 days of the 10,000 steps a day in March, and so far I have walked 90,000 steps and 61 kilometres. Bridge number 2. Doing so alright so far, but this was the short bit. The long leg is this leg at Hammersmith. But it's still lovely weather, so it's still enjoyable. I always think I know how long this walk's going to take, and I'm always wrong. I either over or underestimate it, and theoretically it should be the same every time. I mean, notwithstanding the slightly different routes, but it never is. The weather has a large bearing on it, as it would seem does my desire to get to the other end. It's one of the big fallen trees that we saw earlier in the week. It's taken most of the fence with it as well. The fence actually goes into the tree, that would be why. So I don't really have much to say this morning, and that does happen occasionally. I noticed I sort of dropped a sort of small bombshell about how much it cost to repair a watch yesterday, and then just moved on. So I will briefly cover that. The watch is a 1950s solid gold chronometer, which I bought second hand, and it only cost me 170 quid or something in that order, which by a rough calculation was less than the cost of the gold, which is why I bought it. The idea that the repair cost is over £1,000 is a little galling. I'm pretty sure the watch won't be worth much more than that in full working order, maybe even less. So I'm going to go and have that conversation tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to also going to Swatch's launch event for this year's club watch. Should be quite fun. They always are. So tomorrow's going to be a watch day, really. We're now approaching sunny Hammersmith. The bridge is being refurbished at the moment. Well, that's what they say anyway. It's been closed a couple of times and whatnot. There's no obvious sort of signs of improvement in the bridge yet, I should say. I mean, there might be some structural ones, but in terms of the actual surface that you drive over or walk over, it's still terrible. I'll show you when we go over it. It's like you can see the river below you, and the paintwork is properly two-tone, because last time they painted it, they only painted to a certain height and it wasn't quite the same green, so that's gone well. See there, the two topes of green. You can here notice the gilt work is basically gone from a gold to basically a grey. This bit, the pavement is okay, but look at the road. It's just a hodgepodge of uneven lumps. That's what happens when a car goes over it. It's pretty terrible. There's the tan line again. And here's the sort of attempted fixing of the holes in the bridge, but you can still see it's almost out of wear where the surface has come off, and it's just chipboard underneath that's left. So it does need a lot of work. Good morning, time for another little walk. Today is going to be, as I mentioned, a lot of watch related nonsense, but before that I'm going into Cambridge Cottage, which I promised a few weeks ago but never materialised because I was selfishly working. Anyway, now I am going into Cambridge Cottage, and the reason being is because I want to get a copy of some of the photos that they have of it, of the building itself, when it was being used as a royal residence, and they are on the wall in the cottage. So I've arranged with Q to come and make a copy. There are certain conditions attached to this, because obviously one, it's a historic building, and two, the pictures are of historical interest. So the conditions are, number one, they cannot be taken off the wall, and number two, therefore they cannot be taken out of the frame. That means I need to take a picture of a picture which is behind glass, and if you ever tried to do that, you know that's actually quite difficult. I have two weapons at my disposal. First is Google's Snapshot app, which is very good at glare removal, but a slightly higher quality version is a DSLR with a black matte piece of cardboard around the lens, which is what I'm carrying with me at the moment, which is why I look slightly ridiculous with a square shoulder because it's A3, and the logic is there that the lens pokes the hole in the middle and everything else is obscured, and therefore you don't get different coloured reflections, different levels of light glaring off the glass. Now we will find out whether this actually works. I will now show you those photos, having edited them at some point in the future presumably, and you can see the cottage as it was, on the inside as a residence, and some shots of the garden as well. So here we go. Interesting, isn't it? I'm going to find out a bit more information about exactly how old those photos are, because it's a fair while since that building had any residents in it. So photography would have been in its somewhat earlier form. So they would have been difficult to take. So I'm going to have a chat with the archives and see if I can find out a bit more. So I have a question for you, which I was thinking about in relation to what I do for work and what I do for fun, and how I describe what I do for fun. Now, I always think that if you say something is your hobby, it's somewhat pejorative. It sounds like you're belittling it somewhat. So, oh, it's only a hobby. Whereas if you say something is an interest of yours, that somehow sounds a bit more important. I don't know whether you discern the same thing, but I've always thought it's better to describe something that you do but don't get paid for as a great interest of yours rather than a hobby. Let me know what you think. I should probably say it was really nice to be back in that part of the cottage. Obviously part of it is open to the public and we go in there a lot, the gallery where we have the reception, but the other bits are the main room where we had the ceremony, and the hallway and a reception room are not, and I hadn't actually been in there since we got kicked out at the end of the wedding, as it were. So it was nice to be back. It's a fascinating building. Sophie, who's the head of events there, who let me in, said it's quite a difficult place to work because it's quite an old building and the heating is a bit temperamental, which I can understand. I guess what you want in an office is somewhat different to what you want from a wedding venue. You don't need character in an office, you need functionality. And of course the strangest thing is there is a fireplace in every single room and even one in the hallway, but they're not allowed to use any of them anymore. So when their heating system fails, they have to wheel in giant heaters. That does seem a little silly. I can understand why, certainly during when you rent it out, I can understand why you won't let people light the fire then. But if you work there every day, it seems a bit odd that you can't come to some sort of arrangement in regards to using the fireplaces. Weather's closed in a bit, so despite the fact it's not yet 3 o'clock, it's gone very grey, which is a bit of a shame because I'm going out this evening to the Swatch Club Watch launch event. Yes, which is going to be hopefully quite fun and involves watches, so cool. But before we get there, and before I forget, we should do the word of the week, which, seeing as yesterday was International Women's Day, I think the word of the week should be woman. That makes sense. And let's do it first of all in German. The woman is die Frau. Die Frau. That is woman in German. And in Italian, the woman is la donna. La donna. So that is woman in Italian, and that is this week's word of the week. In the city, clouds dropping into the top of the skyscrapers. That's it for this week. Thank you ever so much for watching. The Swatch event was great fun. I managed to get one of the special edition club watches for this year, of which there's only 888 in the world, so that was quite good. There was only 30 at the event, and you had to put your name in a bucket. Actually, it was more of a goldfish bowl, and they pulled out people and you could get one. So here it is. It comes with a ball puzzle on the top because it is Join the Dots is this year's theme, and then there we go, there it is. On the inside, you'll notice the hands go under the dots. There we go. Anyway, as I say, thank you very much for watching this week. I do hope you'll subscribe and you can join me next week, where I will be filming various award shows, popping in and out of London, and we have Mother's Day as well. So join me for that.